Oh boy, look at how beautiful that is. And you can hear the sound of the lawnmower in the back as I try to give you this market update this morning. Good morning, my name is Kenny Pulcari and I am your host of the party. And today is July 20th, 2022. And here are the things that you need to know. It is hot out here. And it was hot yesterday, and stocks sizzled. Demand for energy surging, not only here, but around the globe. And what will Vladimir Putin do about the Nordstream Pipeline as Europe and the world awaits? Treasuries remain inverted, but no one's even talking about that anymore, so it seems to be, a passé event. And earnings continue to dominate the news. And what are we having for dinner tonight? Well, we're going to have the Mostaciolli with sweet sausage, red onions, cannelloni beans, and some arugula, clearly along with a handful of fresh grated Parmigiana cheese to finish it off. It's an easy meal to make, and it is so delicious. You'll wonder what took you so long. So look, it was a glorious day yesterday. The sun was out, and it was hot all around the world. The heat buckling roadways and airport runways across Europe. The UK registering temps never seen before in that country, while parts of the U.S. saw temperatures sizzle and then stocks sizzled. The Dow closing up 755 points or 2.5%. The Nasdaq gaining 105 or 2.8%. The S&P gaining 105 or 2.8%. The Nasdaq gained 355 points or 3%. The Russell up 60 points or 3.5%. And the transports added 515 points or nearly 4%. The demand for electricity at all-time highs, causing demand for energy to surge, and that sent oil up 1.2%. All while the Treasury curve remains inverted, sending conflicting signals around the economy, right? The 2 years are yielding 3.14%, the 5s are yielding 3.1%, and the 10s are yielding 2.98%, all completely inverted. And the geopolitical news cycle, oh boy, all eyes are on Vladimir Putin, who's not a NATO member, and his trip to Tehran, also not a NATO member, as he met the Ayatollah Khamenei. And he was joined by who? The president of Turkey, who is a NATO member, right? Erdogan. The picture on the front page of the Wall Street Journal says all you need to know. This just days after Joey's visit to the Saudis, which speaks volumes to the state of our union. You can only imagine what that conversation was all about. To be a fly on the wall, can you imagine? Next, the question is, what will Moscow do with the Nordstream Pipeline tomorrow? Will they turn it on or not? Germany and Europe are sitting tight and waiting. Now, to be fair, they did do a pressure test on the pipeline yesterday, and that's a positive. But until they actually start to send natural gas through the pipeline to Germany, it remains a question for Europe and the West. Germany and Europe are calling an emergency meeting today to discuss the options if the pipeline remains dormant. That's a very key headline. So think about this. Germany is now going to have to choose which industries remain active and which do not, choosing between keeping the lights on and keeping the economy going if the flow stops. We could see Germany and the European markets collapse. So don't go anywhere. This is not the time to walk away from your desk. Now, this morning, as I wrote this, a headline did hit the tape, right? So it seems fairly positive, but he left the door wide open. The headline said Russia will fulfill its commitment to supply gas to Europe, but warned that the flow could be curbed if sanctions prevent further Nord Stream maintenance. You see how he did that? He left it very coy, left the door wide open. If he decides to shut it, he's going to blame it on the sanctions, and so here you go. So maybe they will or maybe they won't. Vlad is trying to divide and conquer Europe using natural gas as a weapon. Remember, Germany is the keystone here, right? If he shuts the flow to them, it will cause untold chaos and disruption across Europe and the globe. So you got to sit tight, because there's more to come. Now, just in case some of you don't understand the reference of the keystone is that stone at the top of an arch that locks the whole arch together. A failure at the keystone causes the whole arch to collapse. Gavish, and so Germany right now is the keystone. On the earnings front, well, we got a lot. So let's start with what we got. Johnson & Johnson, right? It beat on both the top and bottom line, and it offered upbeat guidance, yet remains cautious on the year due to what? Dollar strength that we've been talking about. So traders took 1.5% out of it. Halliburton, on the other hand, beat and got lots of love from the street. Citibank, Cowen, JP Morgan, all making positive comments. The stock closed up 2.5% after falling 34% since June 1 as the price of oil retreated by 22% during that same time, still leaving Halliburton up 30% on the year. with lots of opportunity for further gains, and so investors like that. Allied Bank misses and allocates more money to higher loss provisions, think credit defaults, and a slowing economy. That's in line with what we heard from the other banks, right? They took 3.6% out of the stock yesterday. And finally, Lockheed Martin, the big defense contractor, missed on the estimates and cut guidance over the failure to finalize a new contract for the F-35, while also trimming the number of planes to be delivered due to COVID and other factors. After some early morning disappointment, though, the psyche changed and traders took it up $17 off the low to close it up $3 or 0.8%. So in the end, it was a good day for Lockheed Martin. And then there's Netflix. Speculation rampant all day. What would they say? What would they do? Would they lose 2 million subscribers, or would they lose more? Some the street was all suggesting. Would they deliver on a new subscription plan? How do they plan on stopping the bleed? The stock down 70% since November after gapping lower during the January reporting season and again in the April reporting season. Traders nibbled all day, taking the stock up 5.6% ahead of the announcement after the bell. And then it hit the tape. Subscriber losses just under 1 million. That's a huge plus considering the expectation was for 2 million, right? And they expect to launch a cheaper ad tier in 2023. And they also expect to gain 1 million new subscribers in the third quarter. And that drove the market algos and the aftermarket traders into a frenzy, taking the stock up another 7% during the session. And this morning, the stock is still quoted at 215.20, which reflects that 7% move in the after-hours session. So all very exciting. On the economic front, we saw a decline in housing starts, down 2%, and a decline in building permits, down 0.6%, but better than the expected loss of down 2.7%. So that was actually a plus, but yet it's still a negative as we see a decline in those numbers. And today we got mortgage apps, which were down significantly again, and they have been in decline for weeks now. We're also getting existing home sales, which have also been in decline. Today's report is expected to show a loss of 1.1%. The pressure on housing, a direct result of the out-of-control prices caused by the artificially low interest rates held too low for way too long, and that's now correcting as the Fed raises interest rates. Current 30-year money is going to cost you about 5.3% today, and will most likely cost you closer to 6% next week after the Fed raises rates by 75 bips, bringing Fed funds to 2.5%. Recent housing data around the country reveals declining prices and canceled contracts amid the chaos of rising interest rates. This morning we saw U.S. futures were up when I was writing this morning at 5 o'clock, but they have turned now decidedly lower after yesterday's explosive rally. The big chips bill, right, the U.S. manufacturing of semiconductors is making its way through Congress and now is in the Senate. Mitch McConnell says he will not vote in favor of the bill right now. It's a headline-only article, so there's zero clarification. But on the surface, it makes Mitchy McConnell look like he's completely tone deaf and completely out of touch with what's going on in the world, right? Think Taiwan, where the majority of semiconductors come from, and China's move to take Taiwan back, leaving the U.S. and the world beholden to Xi even more. So you have to ask, is that really where we want to be? I mean, it's really crazy, right? The fact that we're even having this conversation tells you all you need to know about the current leadership in Washington, D.C. How could they leave the U.S. in such a vulnerable position? That's like Angie Merkel, who left Germany and Europe dependent on Moscow and Russian oil and gas. How's that working out, right? Listen, that's really another rhetorical question. Don't expect anyone to really answer it, but don't worry. Because guess what? Nancy Pelosi is going to Taiwan next week to show her support for the island nation. Just what we need is Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, as if we don't have enough issues. The semiconductor ETF, the SOX, SOXX, and the SMH, both up yesterday, gaining 4.5% each. Some of the individual names up even more. NVIDIA up 5.5%, AMD up 6%, Qualcomm was up 4%, Broadcom up 3.6%, and Intel up 4%. All names in that space. Of the 11 major S&P groups, industrials and communications led the way higher, gaining better than 3.5%. Tech, financials, consumer discretionary, energy, and basic materials all up a little better than 3%. Real estate was up 2.8%, leaving consumer staples and healthcare up just under 2%, and utilities just under 1%. The value trade, the SPYV, was up 2.3, while the growth trade, SPYG, gained 3%. But the growth trade is still lagging the value trade by a significant amount year to date. Housing, the XHB, gained 3.3%. Don't ask me why. Retail is up 3.3%. Airlines up 4%. Again, don't ask me why. Cybersecurity names up 2%. Artificial intelligence, BOTZ, up 3.5%. While metals and miners, the XME, gained 2.7%. In Europe this morning, we see markets across the zone up about 0.4%, with the exception of Spain, which is down 0.4%. Italy is up 0.3 as the political drama once again unfolds across the motherland. Prime Minister Uncle Mario Draghi warning us that he wants out, while Italian President Sergio Mattarella says non c'è modo, which means no way. In the UK, the government reports that inflation has hit another 40-year high in June as food and energy prices continue to soar, escalating the country's historic cost of living crisis. Remember, the Bank of England Governor Andy Bailey told us that he will do whatever it takes to break the back of inflation. No ifs, ands, or buts. Expect to see higher rates in the UK, which is going to put more pressure on Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, who's promised she's going to be forced to do more than what she promised, is 25 basis points, and that announcement is coming out tomorrow. Earnings today include NASDAQ, Abbott, BKR, PSB, and after the bell, it's even more exciting. United Airlines, Alcoa, Steel Dynamics, and Tesla. Tesla is out after the bell tonight, so expect lots of chatter about that. The S&P busted up and through 3,900 yesterday to close at 3,936, up 105 points, leaving us just 64 points away from the next century mark, 4,000. Expect the action today to be driven by earnings and forward guidance and more speculation about what the Fed will or will not do next week, right? We are now in the quiet period. Do not expect to hear any FOMC members until next week, right? Don't expect them to talk, which doesn't mean, though, that you're not going to hear from the non-FOMC members. Think Minneapolis Fed President Neely Kashkari, right? He's the latest deep throat. If the Fed needs to leak an idea, he'll do it. By now, I think they've made it clear. After the hysteria caused by last week's CPI and PPI reports, which led many to suggest a 100 basis point move, something I think needs to happen, but apparently won't happen this week. Okay, so what are we having for dinner tonight? We're having the Mostaciolli with sweet sausage, red onions, cannelloni beans, some arugula, and fresh grated Parmigiana cheese. It's a great dish. You can make it vegetarian just by eliminating the sausage. Bring a large pot of salted water to a boil. Get that started. That's how you always have to start your pasta dishes. Now, in a large saute pan, you want to heat up some olive oil. You want to add the crumbled sweet sausage into the pan, and you want to brown it up nicely. Then you want to remove it, put it in a bowl, and just set it aside. In the same pan, you're going to add the crushed garlic and some sliced chopped red onion. Saute it until the onion is soft and translucent. You know how that works, right? 5 to 8 minutes. When that's done, you want to add back the sausage to the pan. Then you're going to add a can of cannelloni beans, juice and all, right out of the can. You want to stir it just to heat it up. You don't want to cook the beans. They're really already cooked. That's going to take you about 4 minutes or so. Now you're going to add the Mostaciolli to the boiling water. You're going to cook it for 8 minutes or so, leaving a little bit al dente. You know how that works. After the 8 minutes, using a slotted spoon, you want to add the pasta to the saute pan with the sausage, the onions, and the beans. Now add in a ladle of the pasta water to keep it moist. You're going to add in the chopped arugula, and you're going to mix it well, and feel free now to toss in a handful of fresh grated Parmigiana cheese, mix it well, and serve it immediately in warm bowls. You can also enjoy this with a glass of white or red wine. Either works with this, but if you're going to drink a red, make it a light red. Don't make it a heavy red. Just because I think you don't need a heavy red for this, right? A Chianti works nice, a Pinot Noir works nice. You can always use my favorite white wine, which is Pinot Grigio Santa Margherita. In any event, this dish should probably cost you no more than $20 to make to feed a family of 4, right? And you can always enjoy this with freshly toasted garlic bread. You can never go wrong with freshly toasted garlic bread. In any event, it is a spectacular day here in South Florida. You can see the sky is blue behind me. Let's only hope the markets remain as beautiful as today is. Until tomorrow, take good care.